Good people, good people, good people. We are on again. It's another day, and we are here. Another episode of the Godly View. Myself and Brother AB Brace. We're going to bring you a conversation that I'm sure will enlighten the mind, will warm your heart, and will touch your soul. AB, what's going on, baby?
Hey, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
I'm good, man.
I feel bad. I missed the first episode, but I'm glad to be back on here. Glad to always join you on the panel, have these conversations. Just to say what's up to the people that's watching. Please join in, share, invite some people so they can sit down and be a part of this conversation as well.
Mhm.
Ask some questions. Give your input, add some comments. So it's just not me and Greg talking. We want this to be a full conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm certain that they will join in and ask their questions, man. I know we audience has been very good about interacting with us, man. And I think that we are on to something here with the Soul Brothers as we have entered season 2 now. And we have been, going strong. And I think that the male perspective is one that is always one that people want to hear because the assumption is that we don't speak, that we don't talk. When you and I know that's not true at all. Because if you were to go in any barbershop on a Sunday, I'm not saying on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday evening, it's plenty of conversation going on about a plethora of things, whether it's sports, relationships, marriage, politics. It's always a SME somewhere in the building as a subject matter expert in the building on something. So, man, we're
Definitely.
talking about God's purpose for marriage for men and women today.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hot conversation, my brother.
Yeah, I think I'm on here
Because
with the right brother. I'm on here with the right brother. And before we even jump into that conversation, we're going to shout out our brother James that won't be able to wasn't able to
yeah,
join us tonight. He
yeah,
has some things going on, but we definitely want to shout him out and recognize him. We'll be back
absolutely,
together. The Three Musketeers will be back together next show.
absolutely. Look, James, our prayers are with you as you do what God would have for you to do in ministry, man. That's our brother. But when you think about all the issues and the conversations that go around now in regard to men and women. You think about TikTok, especially. I'm not sure how active you are on TikTok, but if it seems like everybody's life is geared towards not a healthy conversation about us, but something that pins us against one another and that actually prevents what we're trying to talk about today.
Yeah.
Purpose. It's always a matter of let's find out whose fault the breakdown in the family is. Let's find out who's responsible for this. And let's talk about how we can further beat that gender down, whether it is men talking about women or women talking about men. It is always something that seems not to be a healthy conversation, man. Why you think that is, bro?
Man, it's so many different reasons, and it's so layered. I was watching a podcast the other day, and this lady made a good point. She
Mm-hmm.
was actually quoting someone else,
Mm-hmm.
saying it has gotten to the point where men had a certain position in society. We had a certain position in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We were the sole providers. We were the head. We were the leader. We were that financial go-to.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where our counterparts, our female counterparts, has
Mm-hmm.
started to achieve, and they started to achieve more and get more,
Mm-hmm.
increase their education, increase their level of income, and things of that nature. And it has almost left men in a position where we don't always know our place, because
Mm-hmm.
traditionally we was the provider,
Right.
but in contemporary times we're not always the providers, or we're not even always in the family. So that's left men um, confused of what our place is in our community, in our families, in our homes. And it also has worked in a way where women have also become confused, because men are out of place. So, and I think instead of us working together and communicating and, trying to compromise and sacrifice to make things better, we started to be at odds with each other. Um,
Mm-hmm.
You've taken my position, or you think you can take my position. The woman saying, "Listen, I don't need you in that position anymore,"
Mm-hmm.
and man not knowing his place, and a woman being out of place in so many words that
Mm-hmm.
we're clashing, and it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
power. It becomes a power struggle, and we're finding every way to fight. We're finding every negative about each other, everything we dislike about each other, and we're just going at each other, and that's destroying the families. That's destroying our communities. Families aren't even being built anymore. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just been a progression of time and change, where the tradition and things
Yeah.
that we used to has
Mm-hmm.
changed, and we didn't adapt with it, and we did not adapt in a proper, healthy way.
Brother, I agree with you 100%. I'm not sure if you saw in the media in the last week or two, Tyler Perry made some remarks about women stepping up and, sharing the load of the bills more when they're in a position to do so. And a lot of women didn't like that, because they felt like, how dare this man who has made it to the pinnacle say that women should pay more of the bills. What I think that what happened is that they didn't actually listen to all of what that brother said,
Mhm.
because honestly, I did not disagree with him the whole thing in what he was saying. When you pull out certain things without hearing what came before or after, it sends a condescending message. But what that brother was saying, paraphrased, was that women are making more money nowadays. And if you happen to encounter a gentleman and you're with him and he's treating you well, he's loving you, he's honoring you, he's respecting you, and he's a great man to you, and he is doing what he's supposed to do in your life. If this man cannot pay all of the bills, whatever he can pay, let him pay that, and then you step up and you use your income as well. That's what he was saying. Now, take it out of context, they made him to be saying that, oh, we should split bills 50-50. He didn't say that.
You should
He
settle.
talked about more so working together
Yeah.
and doing what's necessary. You know what I'm saying? I think that, to your point about being out of position, I think that we don't even sometimes know what our position should be, because we have given, man, so much power to money that it's almost like we don't realize that that is the issue.
Yeah.
Like we believe in this I pay the cost to be the boss philosophy. So therefore, whoever has the money has the power. And
Mhm.
since traditionally it has been men who have more of the money, then the belief is that's why men have had more of the power, so to speak.
Yeah.
When us as Christian singles, Christian marriages and relationships don't realize that, no, God set things up for men to lead, but he never intended for men to lead in a position of financial gain, right? Money had nothing to do with it, but we came along and we made money be the end all be all. When the reality is, leadership from a man has nothing to do with his money. Because honestly, let's just say this man makes $70,000 a year,
Mhm.
and she makes $100,000 a year. Well, his 70 still might be enough where he might pay every bill in that house, every bill, right? But she is the one who makes more. So does her 100 grand mean that she is greater? Does his 70 grand mean that he is less? No. It just means that this is my salary, this is your salary, right? The problem, I believe, AB, is that we have gotten away from togetherness and working together. We don't know what that is, what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? And because we don't relate in the relationship and the marriage as one, it's like it's always me against you, you against me when it boils down to it. Because as soon as something goes wrong, that is when you can see how we feel about one another, who's going to take the blame, or who's going to step up and be accountable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely been hearing the conversation with Tyler Perry, what he said on that podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you, and I did hear like a lot of the pushback and you know, the grievances that some of the ladies had. And it always takes me back to the word sacrifice.
Come on, sir.
Yeah, the word sacrifice. Like, what I think was most important is this man sacrificing for you?
Yes.
And how much is he actually giving? How much is he actually putting in the effort? You know, it makes me think of that scripture with the older lady that was in church, and you know, all the Pharisees and the guys whose money was giving all this money, but they was just doing it for show. And then the old lady, you know, she had whatever she had, which was much less.
Yeah.
But Jesus said, you know, what she gave was greater than what they gave.
Yes, sir.
She gave from her last. So I look at it the same way. Like, is he sacrificing all that he can sacrifice? Is he doing all that he can do for you? Because if he is, then you're not settling it. And that was one of the complaints that I was hearing when I heard that comment. And Tyler Perry wants us to settle for less. Like, you know, I understand the world that we live in. We live in this is a capitalist society, and I know money is important, but like you said, it's not the most important thing. Is that man honest? Does he handle you with care? You know, does he have integrity? You know, is he faithful? There's so many other characteristics and qualities that's going to come before how much money he's making, or if he's paying a mortgage or whatever bill he's paying. That you know, I think that you should put as priority.
Come on, sir.
And also, like you were saying, if you're making 100,000 and I'm making 70,000, that togetherness you was talking about, that together, we're making 170,000 now.
Come on now.
So no matter how you look at it, you're not at a deficit. You're still gaining.
Right.
you're still gaining. It's still, you know, it's still a benefit to you. But that word togetherness, you know, I think we've been so used to doing things on our own, being independent, being self-sufficient, that it's hard for us to actually blend our lives together and develop that mutuality mindset. We, you know, let's compromise, let's put it together, let's build this thing. Is we like two individuals acting like we're getting into a relationship. I got this, what you got, what you bringing to the table. And it's not really like, let's put it together. It's more like, okay, what you bringing to the table and what I'm bringing to the table is, this is mine, this is yours. And then you're trying to blend your life together while still separately. And that's always a recipe for disaster. So, yeah, what Tyler Perry was saying, I didn't have too much complaint argument with it. I mean, honestly, as a man, you know, I would not want to be in that position. You know, I would want to take the lead with the finances.
Sure.
But that's not everybody's story. And I know that's not, you know, that's not possible for everyone. And and I don't think that makes a man less of a man if he's not leading financially.
Right.
You know, but I think that's the tag we have put on that, and that's the value that have been put on men, and like the only value, like what is he bringing to the table financially? And if he's not bringing what you seem as sufficient, then he's less of a man in your eyes, and
Right.
that's unfortunate.
And I think even part of that, man, is our fault that we have been reduced, like our worth has been reduced to our wallet. That's partly our fault because for so long that has been the measure by which we have asserted our dominance, right? Even sometimes amongst each other as men, like we sometimes compare ourselves to each other based upon, you know, our job, our career, you know, our status in society, and that becomes how we operate all throughout life. Like, do I, if I have more, then I'm better than you, right? Not realizing that that does a detriment to our character. That's why you have a lot of people who are financially well off, right? But they have nothing else to assert or to add, rather, to this relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're so stuck on what I have financially, my resources or what have you, then what happens when it's time for me to be emotionally intelligent? And I know that many of us have heard that so many times in the last year that even the thought of what that actually is is kind of off, right? Because like when we're talking about the purpose for men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and then talk about emotional intelligence, that has to start with self-awareness. And that's one of the things people don't ever consider is that what is your level of self-awareness? You know, it's larger than who you are. How did you arrive or conclude that this was who you are? Like what led you to understanding who you are, right? Are you really operating right now in your reality? Or have you built such that you allow other people to think that you're this way because you operate in a certain capacity that only lends itself for this part of you to come out, right? On a personal level, have you dealt with your past? Have you reconciled your past with your present that your future can now manifest? Or are you acting as if your troubled past never existed? Because a lot of us, it is not impossible, but it is hard for us to really be um, present in this moment because we are stuck at a certain age, right? And sometimes it's a third party to point that out to us that you're stuck. You're 40, but you're stuck at 18 because something happened to where the 18-year-old is still screaming out because you left it. And that's why every now and then it doesn't seem like you're 40 because you never graduated from that stage in life. And now it's you're acting out now in a manner that maybe your partner does not understand. And now you're unable to allow the purpose for this marriage, should you be in one, or relationship, to be what it needs to be because you're not who you need to be. It's I always say, AB, that relationship and marital problems don't really exist how we think. They're really personal problems that you brought into the relationship.
Exactly.
And it's like you brought your stuff, they brought their stuff, you know. Well,
Yeah.
what the great R&B prophetess say? Bag lady, you're gonna hurt your back dragging them bags like that. We're all dragging our bags, and now we're here in the present now, and we never ask ourselves this, man. We never ask, is my trauma compatible with your trauma? Because
Yeah.
my trauma affects me this way, yours affects you that way. And the same way that we can be incompatible in other ways, like personality wise, well, guess what impacts that? Your past, your
Yeah.
trauma
Yeah.
on both ends.
Yeah. What you just said, it just reminded me of conversation. I might have been having it yesterday or Thursday on Facebook. A brother put up a question: Can or should a married couple take advice from a single advisor, whatever, a single person, basically?
Your brother Mike put it up.
Yeah. And that's exactly what my response is what you were kind of speaking to. Like, marriage, what I found is that the problems in a marriage are usually individual problems. You know, and they bring it into the marriage, and that messes up the marriage. Like, as an individual, you have bad communication skills. You know, as an individual, you was untrustworthy. As an individual, you didn't know how to compromise, and you brought all of those issues and those traumas into the marriage. So, you know, I was saying that it doesn't matter if the person is married or unmarried; they give you advice, because 9 times out of 10 is individual issues. It's not a marriage issue.
Hello.
And you just brought that into your relationship. So when you said that, it made me think of that post that was put up.
I agree, man. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was not. Go ahead, brother, because what you were saying was going right into the main topic. Like, when you was asking, who are you as a person?
Yeah.
You know, our main topic is, you know, the purpose that God made man and woman. Like, who are we? Yeah, and why were you made? My former pastor always used to tell me, or tell us, like, if we want to know what God's plan was for man and women, then we always go back to Genesis.
Come on.
It's all laid out right there. So how you want to tackle this, brother? Because it's about men and women. You want to talk about the men first, the women first, or you want to talk about us together?
Look, however the Lord leads. But you know what? I think that when it all boils down to it in regard to the purpose, I'm gonna start here at men, since men were created first, right? A man was created, right, to build, to establish. And I think that is where some of us go wrong, is that we're not building and establishing prior to this woman coming into our life, right? You cannot desire a help meet if you have nothing to help you with, right? Because that's out of order. And then this woman will become anxious if she has nothing to help her fulfill her obligation, which is to make better, right? And the reason I'm using the term make better or increase or multiply is because you think about it. Men control access to relationship and marriage. Women control access to children and family. When you think about, again, this is just biologically speaking and spiritually speaking. Like, if a man is establishing, building, you know what I'm saying? Like, build the castle that the queen is going to live in with you, right? You want a queen, but you have no castle to put her in. Or you want an angel, but have no heaven for her to exist. So my responsibility is to not simply prepare for marriage. And I'm going to wreck somebody's thought process. Your job as a single person is not to prepare for marriage. It is to prepare to be the person that God designed you to be, right? As a man, first, let me establish a household, right? That this woman can make this house a home and do her job, right? If I don't have things efficient on my end in terms of I'm able to support myself, I'm able to do the things that support me as an adult, I'm able to adult very well, right? That is my responsibility to myself. is to be self-sustaining, self-sufficient, build, establish. My worth is in my work. My work to build what? To build me. I am the building. I am the project. Build my salvation, build my integrity, build my character, build myself to a point where I am what? A godly man. That when anybody sees me, they see a reflection of God, right? Now, should God have marriage for me, I got to be that person that she can then have an attraction and a respect for that type of a man. That when we come together, she can respect me for who I am. I can love her for who she is. Like my purpose is to love that wife. Hers is to respect this husband. When she comes along, now she got a foundation to do what to the home? She comes to the home and add the drapes, add wallpaper or colored paint to the walls, right? She makes this dwelling a better place for everyone because of who she is, right? Whatever I give her, she makes better. She makes the house a home. If I give her groceries, she gives me a meal. If I give her a dream, she writes a business plan. If I give her the seed, my seed, we get a baby. So everything I provide, she then makes better. So talking about the purpose, that's why we should stop saying that I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. Yes, you do. We need each other. God designed us to be what? Interdependent. We work together to establish something greater, right? A family is something greater that we create together based upon what I bring and what you bring. But if either one of us stops bringing what we bring or stops being who God made us to be, then we can never be something greater together than we are apart. Because we have stopped being individually, right? Like women. You don't get married to then become Proverbs 31. No, those things speak about a woman, well, a wife, which is a woman who has noble character. It speaks about the attributes of that type of woman, right? Her husband's heart can safely trust in her. Mm-hmm. You know, she brings increase, not spoil, right? Her husband don't at the city gates. That is why we misunderstand when the Bible talks about finding favor when you find a wife. Mm-hmm. It is not this spooky concept, right? Yeah, when a man finds a wife, finds a good thing and finds favor with the Lord, but it's not what you think. It's not some spooky concept that as a result of this woman, any woman being in my life and I'm married to her, I get favor. No, the favor is in who she is and what she brings and what she allows this thing to be because of what? Her presence. Yeah. That is why you love your wife like Christ loved the church. What's that mean? It means I daily sacrifice for her to love her better, or I die some to myself daily to love her more. Why? My protection is not because she is weak. She's important. That is why I protect her. That is why a man would risk his life for her if it came down to that. So if we don't come into the marriage with that understanding as man and woman, then the reason that this thing won't work is because the way that we approached marriage is incompatible.
Yeah. Man, I agree with everything you said, brother. You hit some very important points. I mean, some highlighted some good stuff. When I first saw the topic of what it was, I think the first thing I did was go back to Genesis and see what God told man when he created him. And what I found, the first instruction he gave, man, with all the different versions of the Bible, was like work and take care of it. It says tend and watch over it. It says work it and keep it. That was his instructions to us. So I believe that that's our purpose in this world, is to take care of it and watch over it, no matter what it is. As long as it's God's creation. Whether it's the land that He created, whether it's the woman, whether it's children, whether it's our community, no matter what it might be, our job is to take care of it, to tend to it, and to watch over it. So we're those protectors. We work in order to be those providers. We take care of it, so we're trying to keeping it safe. So I always, like I said, I always go back to Genesis to see, hey, what was his instructions? And his instructions was to take care of it. And then when we talk about in relations to women, take care, watch over it, and he also told us to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah,
a lot of us take those words and think that it's just about reproducing and making kids. But I believe when he said be fruitful and multiply, it also means multiply and be fruitful with her in other ways. Like her talents, her skills, whatever you want to see grow in her, help her multiply. Help her be fruitful with that stuff. It's not all about just having sex and having kids. Multiply whatever God has planted in her and whatever God has planted in you as well. So since we talking about the man right now, that's the first thing that came to mind. But then, as I kept on reading, I started to see the purpose of why God created the woman. And it said to be a helpmate. So just real briefly, just to tell a story that made me. I thought of a story. I remember when I was in this relationship, and we went on a trip together. It was out of the country. So as men, we don't always pay attention to every single detail. So I made a small mistake, and I didn't properly measure how far the airport was from our resort. It was a 3-hour ride.
Wow.
So I forgot to look that up. So of course, I'm feeling a little disappointed. I'm starting to get frantic, trying to figure out how we're going to get from this airport to this resort. I'm starting to look up bus schedules. I'm looking at charter buses. I'm feeling, maybe we need to stay the night at the airport and leave in the morning.
Yeah.
And she just calmly stepped in and asked me a simple question like, how much would it cost just to get a driver to take us from the airport to the resort? How much less of a hassle would it be to do that? And how earlier will we get there by doing that instead of staying the night or catching a bus or whatever? At that moment, I saw that she fulfilled her purpose. She helped me. She helped me in a time where I was confused.
Yeah.
She supported me in a time where I didn't really know what to do. I was trying to figure out what to do. When I was running around frantic, she stepped in and she didn't put me down. She didn't criticize me for flying in to the wrong airport. She just stepped in and helped me with the situation. And I was like, that's the purpose of a woman. When you feel confused, that's when a man doesn't have all the answers, because we're going to make some mistakes. Inevitable. She steps in and she helps. She steps in and support, and she steps in and she encourages. So that was to me that was a perfect illustration of the purpose of why God made a woman. In just that quick story.
I love it. Whether you're a man or a woman, bruh, and I know you've heard this term all the time. You want a soulmate, right? All of us want our soulmate, right? And that's fine. But I find that we don't really know, okay, well, what does that really mean to you? What does it look like? Right? And I've learned that oftentimes, in order for you to have what you desire, like even when you pray to God, sometimes it is not that God did not answer the prayer. It is that we did not recognize the blessing when it came. And because we sometimes have in our brain what like this has to look like this, right? I don't even simply mean physically. I just mean period. This blessing, my soulmate, has to be exactly this, right? But I have decided what they should be, how they should be, even who they should be, just randomly, right? But think about it. Soul mate. What does that really mean? Right? Soul in the Greek is psyche. Your psyche deals with your what? Your mind, your will, your emotions. That's where the word psychology comes from, right? So mate is about companionship, partnership, and what you just said, fruitfulness, which comes from a partnership, right? So my thing is, okay, so soulmate. What is supposed to be fruitful? Well, again, soul in the Greek, psyche, mind, will, emotions. That is your soul, your mind, will, and emotions. Who makes your mind regulate or your mind prosper? Who brings fruitfulness in your mind, fruitfulness in your emotions, right? Who makes you stay on target, stay on task? An individual that God brings will make you fruitful in those areas, mind, will, emotions, right? Because again, God's primary concern is what? Your soul. So your soul mate has to be an individual that actually makes your soul prosper. That's when you know that God is bringing this person into your life. When they start like for a man, when this woman starts to be who she is and starts to increase things in your life and make you a better version of who you are, or ladies, when this man comes into your life and starts to make you feel more secure than you've ever felt in your life, that's divine. When this man's presence makes you feel protected, right? Like this man comes and changes the way in which your mind functions. Everything that he does makes your mind not on the problem, but on the problem solver, right? This man comes into your life and changes the way you operate because he begins to do those things or assist with those things that used to make you so what? Independent. Now you stop defining yourself by your independence and you now realize the purpose for you and him being together is to be something together that's greater together than you can be apart. Like when you start thinking about these things on a logical level and breaking these words down and seeing what does that mean? What does that mean? Let's put them together. Then you'll really understand how to recognize a soul mate, right? Again, it is, to your point, about fruitfulness. You can't just be fruitful with anybody. That's bigger than having children. That's probably the easiest way to be fruitful is to have children. but what is being produced from you two being together? Even as a single individuals, what's being produced in our life, right? That God can manufacture something greater out of my life as the result of me realizing first who I am, self-awareness, but then knowing the purpose for the coming together. So many marriages are going nowhere. Why? Because the two single individuals prior to the marriage never understood their purpose for being together. So there's no ambition in this marriage. Go ahead.
Let me comment on the soulmate that you brought up. What I think an issue is a lot of us aren't looking for soulmates, but we're creating a lot of soul ties with people, and that's what's we don't know the difference.
Right.
We don't know the difference between the two. We don't realize when we're talking about soul ties, you're creating like an enmeshment where you're actually losing yourself in another
Hello.
person. You're losing yourself mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
When it comes to a soulmate, that's two people becoming one, but you're not losing yourself. You're coming together, but you're building something stronger, and you're building
Mm-hmm.
something stronger, but you're not losing yourself as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
That one person is bringing all that they have, another person is bringing all that they have, and
Yep.
you're putting it together. That's a soulmate. So the soul tie will have you going crazy.
Come on, sir.
The soul tie is when people do all that trauma bonding.
Ooh.
When you
First.
bring your depression and your anxiety and all your issues, your abandonment issues, and you find someone and you think it's compatibility because they also have depression and anxiety issues and abandonment, and you think y'all can relate because y'all come with the same issues, but you're really trauma bonded. That's all that's a soul tie. And the soul tie person usually pulls you farther away from God. If you're
Yep.
soulmate, they're bringing you closer to God. But we often forget or often confuse what the two are. We say we want our soulmate, but we creating so many soul ties, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the major issues of not knowing your purpose and why God made you, and actually looking for your purpose in other people.
Romans 12, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God,
Mm.
present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. That is your reasonable service. Can I get some Morgan? Thank you very much. It's like we don't realize that what is our reasonable service to one another, right? We don't want, like, that's a purpose. We don't want to serve one another. Like, men and women have become so arrogant, man, that we don't want to serve each other because we feel like that puts me beneath you, right? I made this comment to some men in the barbershop. I said, listen, some of y'all married and still don't understand that the reason that your wife have a problem submitting to you is because you not only have not submitted to God fully, but you don't understand your level of submission to her, right? Whole room went silent. Don't tell me, nah, G, nah, ain't no man gonna submit to no woman. That's the lies you tell. What Bible are you reading? It says, husbands, wives, submit to one another as unto Christ. So when you understand how to serve her, she'll have no problem then submitting to you as the leader. But any good leader has to know how to inspire those that they lead to follow. And yeah, as this ball gets rolling, yeah, we'll understand then, yes, at the heart of the matter is my loving my wife has nothing to do with who she is. I'm gonna tell you why. It got to be birthed in my obedience to God, right? My love is not based upon the condition of the one that's being loved. My love is based upon the character of the one who is loving. My character has to be that in which I would love you no matter what. Her respect for me has to be based on who she is, not who I am, right? She has to have the heart to be obedient to God and to respect the man that God placed in her life. But she's confident because this man has already shown that he has a submitted heart to God, and he understands how to not dictate to me, because there are areas where he realizes that, you know what, I am the man, I am the leader. But guess what? As a leader, I delegate sometimes. Why? Because you are better at this than I am, right?
Yeah.
That's why a lot of men they might bring home the bacon, but she frying it. They might bring home the paycheck, but she is the household manager. Because think about it. Any wife watching, tell me I ain't right. Even though the man is the leader and the one who is ultimately accountable, the reason that the woman has to understand how to lead and manage too is because that woman, especially a mother and a wife, makes more decisions than the man does day to day in the home, right? The man don't care nothing about what color those drapes are. The man don't care nothing about what color the paint is. The man don't care nothing about these little nuances in this home. Why? Because we bought the house. We bought the house for you to make the house a home.
Yeah.
So whatever you want to do, just send me the bill. Okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know what's going on. But guess what? We got to marry somebody that we trust to make those decisions. And when we're not home and it's a decision that has to be made and can't be reached, we trust she already understands the assignment, right? Because part of her submission was what? Sub means under. Mission means assignment. She's already under my assignment. Therefore, she already knows the plan because I've already explained it to her. She knows how I think. She knows what I want. She has agreed to be under my assignment. Go ahead, brother.
Let me add something to the submission and the service part, since you brought that up. What I think is a lot of people just have the wrong definition of what submission is. I've always seen this statement, or I should say, I always say this statement, that submission is not about thinking less of myself. Submission is about thinking of myself less. Submission is not about thinking less of myself. It's about thinking of myself less. We submit to anybody that we're serving. We submit to our children, to be honest with you. We submit to their needs. We submit to family. Once I'm putting someone else's needs before mine, once I'm sacrificing my time, my energy, my effort to put someone ahead of me, I'm submitting to them.
Yeah.
So it becomes a issue because we think that submission means I got to put myself underneath another person. A real leader, you're talking about a man submitting to his wife. A real leader, a real husband submits to his wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to say, submits every day.
Every day.
Because you're constantly putting their needs before yours. You're constantly sacrificing your time in order to cater to what they ask or what they request. That's submission. But it should definitely be a two-way street.
Exactly.
Like we should be having a competition on who can submit to each other more.
I like that.
Let me put your needs before mine, and you put your needs before mine, and that's a beautiful relationship right there. But I think people just have confused, or I should say, tarnished the definition and of what submission is, or the purpose of why God told us to submit to each other.
Yeah,
we become so independent. We become so prideful that we think that we cannot and should not submit each other. But if it's somebody that you truly love, 9 times out of 10 you're submitting to them every day. You just don't like the word. But if you're putting their needs before yours, you're submitting. So I agree with you. Men, husbands, they submit to their wife all the time. Wives, girlfriends, whoever, they submit to their men all the time. It's just a word that we have an issue with and have changed the definition around.
Yep. One of the things that stops what you and I are discussing is that, and I think you was making reference to this, is the competition that exists between men and women nowadays, right? I don't know what it is for people of color, especially, that we think that we have to compete or find a reason to tell you, black man, you're not fulfilling your obligation. Or black woman, this is your fault because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. My thing is, at the end of the Bible says, forgetting those things that are behind you, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of Jesus Christ. I don't care what is behind you, let it be there, right? Slavery is behind us. We already understand the facts and the effects of it. Let's let that be what it is. Stay there and stop blaming each other for the oppression that was done to both of us. We understand we have some trauma now that would exist even in the future generation. But let's stop using the trauma as a weapon to weaponize what you think the effect is on you individually. And let's realize this: we both have been scarred. We both have been hurt. So let's take like Mary came in there and poured the oil on Jesus from my alabaster box.
Mm-hmm.
She took the best of what she had, right, and poured it on Jesus. What is the real life application? Why don't you take the best love that you can conjure up and love me? The best love that I have, I'm gonna pour it on you, right? And I want to anoint you with my love. Preach, Gregory Devon. I want to anoint you with the love. And if we can do that, that's what's going to heal these wounds. Why? Because God is love. So as I'm loving on you, as I'm giving you the best that I have in my service, that is my reasonable service. It's my body that is doing this, right? I'm offering over to you the best of who I am, the best of what I have. So that way we can move forward together. We can honor each other. We can show some reverence for your place in my life and vice versa, because I'm not concerned anymore about the past. Let it be what it's going to be, is where it's at. We've agreed on that. Let's realize now, in order for us to move forward, I'm tired of having the conversation about what happened in the late 60s and the early 70s with housing and how this affordable housing caused the black man to have to leave. I'm tired of talking about that because we already know that. Kudos to you for knowing history. We already know that. Let's come on back to 2023 and let's discuss now how we can move forward. I'm not interested in hearing no excuse. If black man, if you're not being the father you need to be, let's stop talking about the reasons why, because you know the reasons why. Let's start today and let's do better, right? Because when you repent, you turn from your wicked ways, right? You don't talk about or worry about no longer your past sin. You've come into a level of accountability. If you know what you're supposed to do, let's do it. Women, same thing. It ain't just certain black men who not being fathers. Some of y'all are toxic mothers. Let's do better. I know some of y'all saw the Kurt Franklin story. It's women sometimes too. They're toxic. Let's do better. Let's blot out all the unrighteousness. Let's put it in the past. Let's commit to doing better, so that the purpose for marriage, the purpose for the relationship, the purpose for men and women can fully manifest. Let's drop all this nonsense and try to figure out it was your fault. It's both of our fault. And let's be accountable together. In the beginning, to your point about going back to Genesis, when God came back, yes, he said, Adam, where are you? But guess what? Just because God came to Adam and he was the one that was accountable, understand Eve had a consequence for her action. So we both have something to do with the status quo. good or bad, men, we got to realize this: the success and the failure of marriage rests on the back of a man, because we control, again, the gateway to relationship and to marriage. It is us. Will you marry me? It is us. And any woman who thinks, well, I might want to be empowered to ask him, fall back, because you out of order. A man can never be accountable or even protect something that he did not establish. He cannot, because a man cannot protect anything or anyone that he cannot control. And before you have a problem with the word control, this is what I mean. If we want the protection and the leadership of a man, we have to submit to this man's God-given divine authority, meaning that this man wants what's best for you, what's best for us. If this man gives instruction, don't have a problem as a wife with the word obedience, because you're being obedient to God, not simply this man. God set things up a certain way. Sometimes it is God who we both are fighting because we want to look at the other person and say, what you're not doing. When have you allowed your spirit to digest the responsibility that God has placed upon you as a man or a woman? Because if you can't do that, you will always have a problem doing your God-given assignment.
Yeah.
What you got, bro?
Yeah, man. I think one of the main things we have to do is just make sure that we distinguish what God purpose is from what we have defined as our purpose. You know, we've have made our careers our purpose, our goals, our dreams, our purpose, things that we want to achieve in life. We say that's my purpose in life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with those things at all. We should all have those things at some level of the purpose. But we also have to remember that God's purpose is the priority. God's purpose has to come before that. And even with all those things that we claim to be our purpose, if it's not being done to the glory of God, and if it's not being guided by God, then then who are we doing it for? Then then it becomes all it's vanity. We're doing it for ourselves. It becomes selfishness. So, that's my thought on it. That as we talk about God's purpose, we definitely have to know what God's purpose is, and don't confuse it, mix it up with what we think our purpose of life is, or what we want to do. So,
yeah. My heart bleeds sometimes for this generation that is from about 20 to 30, that generation. My heart bleeds for them because many of them are so lost, right? And they're lost because there's a level that we have left them to figure out themselves, right? Because something got lost in translation to where the 20 to 30-year-old age range now, that's a ratchet generation. I just don't get it, man. I mean, from the music to the culture to the thought process about marriage, relationship, that's the generation that really struggles with their sexuality, and we're seeing in their children now who are young, we are seeing the ignorance, we're seeing the unbalance in that generation, because it's like now the rules are that there are no rules. Anything goes. Whatever I deem right in my mind is right for me. That is the most dangerous statement you can make, is to make your own rules in this society. that you're the only one that's operating by those rules. Because eventually, not only will you be toxic, but you will end up depressed because you won't even understand your own rules eventually because you're making them up as you go along. And you'll reach a point where you're going to be by yourself because no one else operates in that manner. So now it's like, I'm lonely now because no one else thinks like me.
Yep.
All of us I'm by myself. Now I'm depressed. I got to call who? Got to call AB.
But you see, but you know what happens in a kingdom that has no rules is anarchy. It's destruction. It breaks down. So, but that's how we're living. People are living with no rules, and everybody's doing what they want. That's why it's so much conflict. There's so much violence, so many things going on. But if you just look at yourself as a kingdom, if you're living in a kingdom with no rules, that kingdom is going to fall.
Yeah.
The people are going to start fighting against each other. There's going to be wars, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. So yeah, everybody is doing what they want. Everybody is following whatever rules they make up. The funniest phrase that I hear these days is "my truth." Everybody is like, this is my truth.
My truth.
Like, okay, your truth doesn't mean it's reality, and
Come on, sir.
there's only really one. There's only really one truth, and what truth are you living by? You know, what truth is really governing your behaviors in your life? Like, you can't just make up your truth and then go with it. Or like you said, that's when you have the depression and anxiety and all the other stuff that comes along with it. But you know, that is the world that we're living in, especially for with our young people. And my heart goes out to them as well.
Yeah, man. You know, we just we see so much, and then we throw religion at things and thinking that, well, just bring them to church, bring them to, that's gonna fix it. No, it's not. It's not. We gotta stop using religion as therapy. It is two different things, and your religion can't do what therapy can. I don't care what your big mama told you or who. Some people need to go through a process. Yeah, never stop bringing them to church, but don't use church as a means of therapy, because at the end of the day, sometimes, like, you remember when Jesus told that blind man, go wash in the pool, right? Only reason that man got healed because Jesus told him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And Siloam means sent, right? Well, the sent one sent a man to a sent place. Sometimes your healing comes from God sending you to the therapist. So my prayer is not simply, God, heal them. My prayer, God, help me to select a therapist that can really get through to me or get through to whomever. That's your prayer. And that might become the pool that you need to wash in to not simply become healed, but to become well. There's a difference. You could be healed and not well. And God said, do you want to be Christ? Do you want to be whole? Which is well. Wholeness and being healed and always the same thing. And it is wholeness that we really need to desire, you know. But I think that this conversation, man, is gonna have to be one which it might be a good idea for us to, on our next combined show at that appropriate date, that we have the women to discuss this with us, because there are so many things that we can highlight together and that we can discuss in real time that might really benefit both genders. And I just believe that tonight was the start of something great, you know, that we can maybe come together with the soul sisters and discuss this conversation more in detail. We can come to some kind of resolution and conclusion that will really be beneficial to both of us. Because I just believe that God is doing something wonderful with this show and with us coming together. So I believe that we are, in doing that, it'll be great for both genders, men and women, if we're both on the screen together and talking about this in maybe a part 2 or a part 3 conversation, because it's definitely needed. Definitely needed.
So sorry, brother. Had some technical difficulty real fast.
No worries, man. No worries at all. I just got word that the Soul Sisters will be added to this conversation. So definitely, I think that it will be very beneficial, because this whole thing could really be a series of conversations, and I truly mean that. That has had just the whole word purpose, and when you apply that to men, women, relationships, marriage, or anything else, right? It could be an ongoing conversation, because there's so many different branches that you could talk about purpose in, right? That I'm like even this just came to me. Even doing a series or a show rather on the purpose of intimacy, right? And talk about intimacy for real, not just one avenue of it, but all of what intimacy is, and speak to that purpose. Because I believe that although we are single Christians, I just believe that anybody benefits from a healthy conversation, and especially when you bring intelligent men and women together on a platform. And the one thing that I like about when we dialogue is that all of us respect what the other person is saying, and nobody is trying to compete or outdo the other. It's really a matter of, oh, great point, let me say this. Oh, great point, let me say this. Because the more we can show that, I think we give people something else to tune into, to take their mind off of ratchet television, off of these non-productive or these counterproductive conversations that are going around social media that ain't benefiting anybody.
Yeah. No, I agree, brother. I can't wait for them to join this conversation, especially to get their perspective on a woman's purpose. I think we can sit down. We can definitely break down a man's purpose, but it's nothing like hearing it from the sisters' point of view as well. So I think
that might be a 2-hour show.
Yeah. All right, so.
Well, man, I believe we're out of time, Doc. As always, it's always a pleasure, my brother, getting together with you and chopping it up. Again, to give honor to James in his absence. We know he'll be back for the next show. We're sending our prayers to his way and to the family that he's encouraging and ministering to. I want to lift up prayer for the soul brothers and the soul sisters as we individually and together do our thing. I pray that God continues to just bless what we're doing and be in the midst of what we're doing, because at the end of the day, it's all about serving the kingdom of God. And I know all of us have a heart for the kingdom. All of us have a heart for one another. We care about one another. So I just want to pray that God continue to just be in the midst of what we're doing. Any final thoughts, man?
I think you said the benediction, man. You said it, that all needs to be said. I just can't wait to continue this conversation. And I know we have a lot more topics coming up. So just tune in. It's every second Saturday and every fourth Saturday of the month. It's the Soul Brothers. Please, if you have any questions, send us questions. If you have any ideas for topics, send that to us too, and we'll make it a part of the show. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talking to you. Like you said, we're gonna definitely shout out our brother James. I can't wait till he returns next show. And that's all I have for tonight, brother.
All right, man. Well, as always, God live you, family. I am Gregory Devon. He is A.B. Bracewell. As always, we love you with the love of the Lord.